Maryland, disturbing information according to the mother. Her daughter was shot and killed in front of her own children by her husband.
It's okay to leave. It really is. It's okay to leave. Because if you don't leave, you can end up like my daughter and like my mother.
Her grandmother was taken by her husband in 1999. 27 years later, her daughter was taken by her husband too. Same betrayal, different name on the police report. And Tanisha Shields is the woman who survived both. Let me tell you something. This story is not just about one night in Columbus, Georgia. This is about a pattern that found the one person in that family who was specifically being protected from it. Lexus Antrum was 28 years old, a mother, a dreamer, the kind of woman who did not sit around waiting for life to hand her something. She pursued music, modeling, rapping. She even stepped into reality television because she wanted to build something real for her two boys. Everything she did with those kids in mind. Girl, she was not a quiet woman either. She spoke her mind. She loved loud. She gave everything to the people who were hers. Her mother, Tanisha Shields, raised her knowing exactly what love could cost when it went wrong, because Tanisha had already paid that price. She lost her own mother, Lexus's grandmother, to domestic violence in 1999. Her mother's husband ended her life and never faced justice for it. No trial, no answers, just a funeral and a silence that never fully left. So Tanisha raised Lexus with her eyes wide open. She watched every relationship her daughter stepped into, not because she was controlling, because she had seen the end of this movie before, and she refused to let her daughter star in it. And Lexus knew the history. She grew up understanding what was at stake. But she was not naive, she was hopeful. And there is a real difference between those two things. She moved to Columbus, Georgia looking for a fresh start. Military town, tight community. The kind of place where people know their neighbors and life feels a little more grounded. She believed she was building something new there. Then she met Kevon Davenport. He was 22 years old, 6 years younger than her. And from the outside, period, he looked like everything. He called Tanisha mom. He brought Lexus flowers. He showed up for the kids. He was polite, respectful, well-presented. He was the kind of young man that makes a mother exhale and think, okay, maybe this one is different. On social media, they looked like goals. Kevon posted photos, videos, captions. Public affection turned all the way up. In one video, he tagged Lexus and called her his favorite girl for the whole internet to see. And the comments? Full of heart emojis, full of strangers writing relationship goals under their pictures. Like the man had built an entire public image around being the perfect husband. Moving on, here is where it gets uncomfortable. Those posts were not just affection, they were armor. Every photo, every caption, every smiling video was creating a wall between the truth and anyone who might have been paying close enough attention. His social media was not a window into their relationship. It was a door with a welcome mat that was permanently locked from the inside. Even Tanisha, the woman who had spent nearly 3 decades specifically watching for signs, who had lost her own mother to this exact thing, even she looked at Kevon and thought he was genuine. He had her fooled completely. And Lexus? She kept things to herself. She carried weight that she did not share, not even with the mother she was closest to in the world. After everything happened, a woman from Lexus's job came forward and told Tanisha things about that marriage that she had never heard. Details that broke her heart all over again. What those details were exactly, we don't know the full picture. But the effect? Tanisha described it as a heartbreak on top of a heartbreak. Anyways, the flowers kept coming. The posts kept going up. The image of a loving, devoted husband stayed intact for everyone watching from the outside. Days before everything changed, Lexus and her mom were on the phone making plans for a family trip. Normal conversation, laughter, the kind of call you make when you believe you still have time. At some point before that night, Kavan himself called Tanisha. He told her that he and Lexus had been arguing about some things. He did not go into detail. Tanisha, not wanting to overstep into her grown daughter's marriage, gave the best advice she could and left it there. She had no idea what she was really being told. Oh, so now we get to February 12th, 2026. Around 4 a.m, a house on Gardner Drive in Columbus, Georgia. 2 boys, ages 7 and 13, asleep in the next room. And inside that house, an argument crossed a line that nobody comes back from. 4 a.m, that is not an accident of timing. Arguments that turn fatal at 4 a.m. did not start at 4 a.m. That is the end of something that had been building for a long time. Something that Lexus had been carrying quietly and alone. Columbus police officers were dispatched to Gardner Drive following reports of a shooting. When they walked into that house, they found Lexus Antrum on the bedroom floor, unresponsive, multiple gunshot wounds. Every effort made, none of it enough. She was pronounced dead at 4:50 a.m. Now, when the family first got the call, they were told she had been shot 3 times. And as devastating as that was, they held on. 3 is bad. 3 is survivable sometimes. They gathered money, made calls, tried to figure out how to get from Philadelphia to Georgia fast enough to matter. Then came the correction. 7 times. Make it make sense. 3 shots can happen in a moment of panic, a terrible split-second decision that cannot be taken back. But 7? 7 means the trigger was pulled and pulled and pulled again. 4 more times after the 3rd. The gun did not go off. It was aimed. Again and again and again. That is not an accident. That is not a reaction. That is a decision made 6 times over. Her 2 boys, 7 years old and 13 years old, were in the next room the entire time. They did not see it, but they heard it. Every single shot. And I need you to sit with that for a second, because at 7 and 13 years old, the difference between seeing something and hearing it happen to your mother is almost nothing. The sound is the memory now. That is what those boys will carry. Kavan Davenport was also found at the scene with a gunshot wound to his leg, conscious, alive. And his first move, not grief, not panic, not holding her body, his first move was 2 words: self-defense. So what? A man shoots his wife 7 times inside their shared home at 4 a.m. while their children sleep steps away, and he is calling it self-defense? Like, the audacity, the composure that requires. To stand in a room where you just ended someone's life with 2 kids on the other side of the wall and immediately decide which legal framing gives you the best chance of walking free, that tells you everything you need to know about what kind of man Kavan Davenport was behind the image he built online. Her body was later transferred to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation Crime Laboratory for a full forensic autopsy. Kavan was taken to the hospital for his gunshot wound. The detectives were not buying the self-defense story. And here is why that matters. When law enforcement moves to charge someone for murder within 24 hours of a self-defense claim, it typically means the physical evidence at the scene is directly contradicting the story being told. The location of bodies, the trajectory of the rounds, where the weapon was found. Something in that room did not line up with what Kavan said happened. By February 13th, the very next day, Kavan Davenport was charged with murder. He was also charged with possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. Because he was still receiving treatment at the hospital, detectives did something that does not happen often. They went to his hospital bed and served the murder warrant there. They were not waiting. The moment he was medically cleared, he would be transferred directly to Muskogee County Jail. I said what I said. The case moved fast because the evidence spoke fast. Now, here is what the forensic autopsy and the physical scene would have been working to answer. The location of Lexus's body, the position she was in when each shot landed, the sequence, whether the wound pattern told the story of a woman who was threatening someone or a woman who was trying to survive. Those details have not been fully released publicly, but the speed of that murder charge tells its own story. Meanwhile, Kavan's social media pages were still up. Every post, every photo, every video, including the one where he called Lexus his favorite girl and tagged her for the whole internet to see. All of it now functioning as evidence, not of a loving marriage, but of a performance that had been running for months. A calculated, consistent, public alibi built out of flowers and captions and heart emojis. The internet found that contrast immediately. And the comment sections turned into their own kind of courtroom. Anyways, while Kavan sat in a hospital bed with a lawyer, Tanisha Shields was sitting in front of a phone camera, trying to figure out how to get her daughter's body home. Lexus died in Georgia. Her family was in Philadelphia. Her body needed to be transported across state lines. Her 2 boys needed to be brought back. Funeral arrangements had to be made from 500 miles away. And grief, real grief, does not wait for your bank account to clear. A GoFundMe was created. Family members went live on social media asking for help, asking if anyone knew of domestic violence organizations that could assist with burial costs, transportation, child relocation. The cousin went live. Tanisha went live. Tanisha, who described herself as someone who does not like to ask for things, found herself tagging bloggers, tagging news outlets, tagging social media personalities, begging for someone to share the story beyond the Columbus, Georgia local news cycle. She said barely anyone responded. Let me tell you something. A mother loses her only daughter to domestic violence, the same way she lost her own mother 27 years earlier, and she has to stand in front of a phone camera and market her grief just to get someone to click a link. That is not just heartbreak. That is a failure of every system around her. The family did eventually gather. A balloon release was held in Lexus's honor. People came. They let the balloons rise. Lexus did not come back. Kavan Davenport was formally charged with murder and firearm possession. Upon his medical release from the hospital, he was transferred to Muskogee County Jail to await legal proceedings. His self-defense claim is now in the hands of the courts. The forensic evidence, the witness accounts, the trajectory of 7 gunshot wounds inside a shared bedroom at 4 a.m, all of it will be laid out before a judge. The case is ongoing. Let's step back for a second, because this story does not start on February 12th, 2026. It starts in 1999. January 16th, 1999. Tanisha's mother, Lexus's grandmother, is shot and killed by her husband. He turns the gun on himself right after. No arrest, no trial, no testimony, no explanation. Just 2 funerals and a daughter left to grieve in total silence without a single answer for the rest of her life. Tanisha carried that. She carried it into every decision she ever made as a mother. She raised Lexus with her eyes open specifically because of what happened to her own mother. She watched. She stayed close. She made herself available. She was the one person in Lexus's life who had been specifically trained by lived experience to catch exactly what Kavon was hiding. And he still fooled her. That is not Tanisha's failure. That is how precise his performance was. That is how calculated a person has to be to get past a woman who has been watching for this her entire adult life. Then, January 14th, 2026, just weeks before Lexus was killed, Tanisha gets a phone call that her estranged husband has passed away. They were separated but still legally married. She is processing that loss privately, quietly, when the next call comes. February 12th, 2026. Her only daughter is gone. 3 losses, all tied to the men who were supposed to be partners. 2 of them murders, 27 years apart. Same betrayal, different address, different name on the report. Tanisha posted about it publicly. She wrote, "This is like deja vu all over again. Deja vu does not cover it. Deja vu is a feeling. This was a fact." She had not just felt this before, she had lived it before. And now she was living it again. Except this time it was her daughter on the floor and her grandchildren in the next room, and she was the one left standing with no answers. Again. After everything happened, Tanisha went public. She recorded videos, posted on social media, reached out to blogs and news outlets. She was not doing it for attention. She was doing it because her daughter's story was barely making it past the Columbus, Georgia local news cycle, and she needed the world to know Lexus's name. She spoke directly to the man who killed her daughter.
No matter what, nothing's going to bring my daughter back. No excuse, I don't even want a reason why you did it. I just want justice to be served.
She also said something that every person watching needs to hear. Not from a pamphlet, not from a hotline script, but from a woman speaking from a bloodline of proof.
It's okay to leave. It really is. It's okay to leave. Because if you don't leave, you can end up like my daughter and like my mother.
2 generations of evidence behind those words. She is not advising, she is begging. She is begging for someone to hear it before there is a third. And she talked about meeting Kavon, about the flowers, the manners, the way he called her mom. She said,
he was respectable. He had called me in regards to, I guess, them arguing about some stuff that happened. And I try to stay out of my children's stuff because they're grown, and I tried to get the best advice I could, but I didn't know it was like this.
Then she said the part that stays with you. He had me fooled. I didn't know what my daughter was really going through. He made it seem like he was this nice kid, had manners. Then I found out he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Whew, girl. A woman who spent 27 years specifically watching for wolves, and he walked right past her radar with flowers in his hand. After Lexus died, a woman from her job reached out to Tanisha. She told her things about that marriage that Tanisha had never heard, things that Lexus had never shared, not even with the mother she was closest to in the world. We do not know exactly what was said, but we know the effect. Tanisha described it as a heartbreak on top of everything else she was already carrying. And that detail matters because it tells you something important about how domestic violence actually works. It does not just trap the body, it traps the voice. Lexus had someone she could have called. She had a mother who would have come running, who had lived through this exact thing, who would have understood without judgment. And she still could not say a word. That silence is not weakness. That silence is what this kind of relationship does to a person. Shame, fear, loyalty, love, all of it mixed together into something too heavy to put into words, even to the one person who might have been able to help. There are questions this case has not answered yet. What does the forensic evidence inside that bedroom actually show? Do the trajectories of 7 gunshot wounds support any version of self-defense? Or does the physical scene dismantle that claim entirely? What did Lexus's coworker tell Tanisha? How long had things been bad inside that marriage? Were there prior incidents that never made it to a police report? What was Kavon's history before Lexus? Were there other people, other situations, other warning signs that existed before he ever knocked on that door with flowers? And the question underneath all of it, how many other women right now are in a home with a man whose social media looks exactly like Kavon's did, whose manners are impeccable, whose posts are consistent, whose private behavior tells a completely different story? That is not rhetorical. If a name crossed your mind just now, pay attention to that. Lexus Antrum was 28 years old. She was a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a creator who wanted to be seen and heard, and who was actively building a life for the two boys who needed her most. Days before she died, she was on the phone with her mother, planning a family trip. Her last images online show her smiling, a real smile, not a posed one. The kind that only happens when you actually believe the hard part is behind you. Her sons are now being raised by the grandmother who already lost her own mother to this. The balloons went up at her memorial. Her family gathered and let them rise. Lexus did not come back, but her name is here. Her story is here. And the pattern that took her, the one that hides behind flowers and social media captions and respectful phone calls, that pattern is worth knowing by name too, so that the next time someone sees it walking through a door, they recognize it before it is too late. If you or someone you know is in a dangerous situation, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24 hours a day. Call 1-800-799-7233 or text START to 88788. This was the story of Lexus Antrum. Rest easy.